welcome to Pay It Forward. I've got a quick demonstration video for you all today. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own joints, teddy bear joints, useful for teddy bear making and soft toy making. And this is a video, this is the information that I wish was available to me when I first started out, and of course it wasn't, because that was so many years ago. However, I can pass this on to you now. You'll be able to make your own teddy bear joints. They're very inexpensive, they're certainly more efficient, and most of all, they're easier. And it'll help you take your soft toy making to another level. And of course, I'm going to provide you with all of the patterns you're ever going to need to do that, all for free. So let's have a look and see how I do my top secret joints. So the reason why I wanted to show you how to make these little joints today was also to show you there's so many ways. Once you know how to make them up, you can use them for so many more things than just for your obvious jointing your little arms and legs and heads. So in the case of my little goat here, his little arms and legs are jointed. He's also got knee joints and elbow joints. And of course his little head is jointed. But now that I can make my own joints to any size, I've also been able to joint his little horns and his little ears. So it saves you so much sewing time, and you can get some really beautiful clean finishes that you wouldn't be able to get if you were sewing. So you can see that they can be used in so many different ways. For example, even with this little bust of this little bunny here, I've been able to joint her head, but I've also been able to put a joint in the bottom, and now she's jointed to her little base. So there's uses beyond just the obvious, and that's why I want to show you how to make them today. Now this is what your little joint will look like when it's made up, and it's very simple and it's very inexpensive. So let me show you how it's done. So let me show you the hardware that you'll need to make up your little joints. Now first of all, you'll need your wooden discs. Your wooden discs you can buy them just online on eBay, but you can also buy them at every teddy bear suppliers. So you buy them just as discs only. Now the reason why I'm showing you this is teddy bear supply companies, they sell joint kits. They sell little joint sets where you get the little joint in a pack that's already made up. Usually it's lock nuts, so it's different to this, and it's got all your pieces and whatever, but they also charge you an arm and leg for that. So if you can make them yourself, and trust me, the way that I apply my joints is a much easier way. So all you need are your wooden discs from the Teddy Bear Supply Company, and they're very, very inexpensive. Now there's a few sizes that I use, and moving forward with my patterns, the size I use the most is a 30mm disc, but I also use the 25s, the 35s, the 40 and the 50. And I'll let you know if we're ever making a project where we're going to need something different to that. So remember, it's 25mm, 30mm, 35mm, 40mm and 50mm. And if you have some of those in your stash all the time, and you set up with your other hardware pieces, you'll be right to make them up whenever you need them. So the other thing that you're going to need are your bolts. Now instead of using very expensive lock nut bolts and screws and so on, I just use a standard roofing bolt, and this little bolt just has, it doesn't matter what the head is on the top because we're not using a screwdriver because of the way that we put it in. We're using it very simply, so it's just got a nice broad flat head. It's just your standard steel roofing bolt, and you get them at your hardware store, and they're very inexpensive. So this one is the one that we use for most arms and legs, and this one is 3/4 of an inch. So that's the one we use for arm and legs. So the one that we use for neck joints, we always make them a little longer. So this one is an inch. So you have to have a few of each. And this one goes through, of course you gather around your neck and you gather on your body piece, so there's more bulk. So we need the bulk to be a little longer. And then again, if you're making specialty bears, and sometimes we want to add something around the neck, you can increase that length of that bolt, which is 1.25 inches. So very occasionally we use those. So you've got your 3 bolt lengths, but these are the two, the 1 inch and the 3/4 of an inch, they're the ones that you use the most. And you're going to need the little nuts that match your little bolt. So they're just, again, it's just a little simple, inexpensive nut, and they will just screw onto the end of our little bolts. You can see there, no special nuts, no lock nuts, and you'll need your little washer that goes on first. Little washers, so very inexpensive parts, and it might seem like, oh, it's so fiddly. It's not fiddly when you have all your little parts and you make up a whole heap of these little joints at a time. So that's the way that I do it. You're also going to need some Araldite or some epoxy glue, where it's just a 2-part glue. You need it to be very strong. I use the Araldite 24-hour. I don't use the 5-minute unless I'm just doing a couple of little joints in a hurry. I usually use the 24, and I do it the day before, glue up all of my joints, and then they're all set. And it's very, very strong. You'll also need, for putting your little joints onto your bear or your little animal, you'll need a little bit of super glue, and I use the Loctite super glue that's the gel one. It's in this dropper pack and it's awesome because you've got greater control. And that's about it. So what I'm going to do is show you how to glue up your bolts onto your discs. So you can see here that I've got my little bit of epoxy glue. I've mixed that all up. I've just used a bamboo skewer to mix that up. And I have my little bolt ready, and I'm just going to hold it at the end. I'm going to use the pointy end of my little skewer, take up a little bit of glue, and I'm just going to run it around the edge or the underside of the top of that bolt. We don't have to work too quickly because it's the 24-hour glue. So I have glue all around the underside of that bolt, and I have my little wooden disc the size that I want. Make sure that there's no dust on that little one on that side, so it's nice and clean. We can even stand the bolt on its head, and we can just drop that disc down, give it a little pull from the top. You can see it's formed that little seal around it, and we can just sit that one there to dry. So that is as simple as it is. You don't need a washer because the bolt is a roofing bolt, so it basically has its own washer. So they're very, very durable. And so that's it. And I just do heaps of them at a time in all different sizes. And remember your different bolt lengths. So make sure you do some for your little necks, and all of your different sizes for your different size bears. Now generally in my patterns I can only offer you free patterns that will fit on an A4 sheet of paper, which is why all of my little bears and animals for you will be on a medium to small scale. But if you are making bigger bears, of course you're going to be needing some of these bigger discs, and it's just so great to be able to make them up yourself. So we're going to let that one dry. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you exactly how to use my special joints when you're jointing a little bear's arm to his body. So here I have a little teddy bear's arm. So it's all stitched up. I've just filled the bottom there, and I've got a little sample teddy bear body, and we're going to be joining the arm onto the body. So what we need to do, and here's the part that makes it all so easy. We take our little joint, which is all glued and dried, and we're going to take our clear craft glue, and it just needs to be the clear craft glue that I use all the time, something that's suitable for fabric, and we're just going to add some glue around the base of that bolt. Don't have to go right to the edges of the disc. And we're going to take that little joint. I use my forceps just because I have them and it's easy. And we're going to pop that little joint into our little arm and find that little hole And there we have. And we're going to push that little, all that fabric right down to the base of that little joint. Very important that you get all of that fabric right down around. Make sure that your little joint is sitting nice and flat against your fabric, and this is the inside of the arm that goes into the teddy bear. Press that all down and we're going to let that dry. You only need to let it dry for 10 minutes or so. Very important that you've got it nicely there, that it hasn't got any seam trapped in it. And there's nothing between the disc and the inside of that teddy bear's arm. So there we have, so it's glued in. Now the reason why we're gluing it in is because that enables us to fill up and close our little arm off the bear, off your little animal. And it's way easier to fill an arm and close that lattice stitch opening if it's off the little bear. If you use standard teddy bear lock nut joints, you have to pop the little joints in, and then you have to leave the arm unstuffed, and then you have to add it to your little bear, and you have to get a screwdriver in this side and a spanner in the inside the body, and you're holding 2 and 3 things, and it's just so much harder. And yet that is the standard teddy bear lock nut system. So I'm really giving you a great secret here, because it really changes, this really changes everything. And in fact, when I was teaching, and I used to be teaching with different teddy bear supply companies, when I did workshops, I wasn't allowed to tell them about my joints because it meant that they wouldn't make all those sales. So you see how that works. So we're going to let that one dry. Then I'm just going to fill up that little arm, I'm going to close that opening, and I'm going to show you how I secure it onto the bear. So now I have my little limb is all closed, and that little joint in there is glued to the inside. So when I go to tighten my little nut on the inside of my little bear, that little joint won't move around. So there's no need to have to hold it from the other side, and it only needs to hold for as long as it takes to do up that knot, that little nut. So that's the whole difference between using lock nuts and doing it this way. And of course this way, like I said, you can imagine if you had to leave all of your little arms and legs all unfilled, and you had to join them all onto the bear, and then you've got to try and stuff the little arms and legs and close those openings when they're all on there, and it's very difficult. So this is so much simpler. So now we've got our little limb all ready to go, and we've got our little hole already marked in our little body, and we just pop that one through. Again, it's very important to make sure that you're getting that the little shaft of the bolt pushed right the way down, nice and flat. Push that seam around it, nice and flat. And then our first step is to add our disc. Check that that is nice and flat. You can see that's there. Then we add our washer. And then we add our little nut. And we can finger tighten that one first, and then just check that you've got no fabric caught, your little joint is moving well, and then you can go ahead and tighten that little nut using your little spanner. So I've got a little one that's got the round edge. I don't know what the technical name for it is, they belong to my husband. I just steal them. So I can tighten up that little joint, and I know that I can get a lovely firm little joint. You can see that's only just moving. Remember, when you're jointing anything at all, that those joints will compress over time, so it's better to do them up a little tight initially, that the joints are a little stiff initially, because they will soften and loosen as time goes by. So there we go. So that's all nicely done up and it's all nice and secure, and our last step is simply to add, this is the same as using a lock nut, only it's so much easier. I'm going to take our super glue, and like I said, I use the gel, and I'm just going to drop the tiniest amount in the groove there. And once you've done that, trust me, that little nut will never come off. And I know that because there have been times where I've changed my mind and it doesn't matter, it's on there for life. So they're very, very secure. So we just let that dry. Of course, you know, super glue dries in a couple of seconds, which is awesome. Pull that one out and you've got your little limb jointed to your little body. So it really is that simple. And I think you're going to find that very, very handy. I think that this is going to be a tip that you're going to use, and you're going to have your own little supply of little joints. I know it seems a little like it's a lot of little pieces initially, but once you have them all and they're all set up, you can see that jointing this way is so much better than having to be holding a spanner in here and a screwdriver in here and trying to twist and turn, and it's just, well, it's madness for me, so I wouldn't do it. So I hope that you have great success with this little top secret tip. Well, thank you all for joining me today. I hope you got some great information out of that little demonstration. I know that it's going to take you all of your soft toy making to another level. Make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any of those up and coming patterns that I have for you. We're definitely going to be using joints a whole lot more, and now you know how to make them, it won't be a problem at all. So follow me on Instagram. Love to see what you're doing. Please send me pictures. Thank you to everybody who has sent me pictures so far. I absolutely love to see what you're making, and I will pin them on a special Pinterest board I have for you all and show off all of your beautiful creations. So follow me on Pinterest too, and remember to keep telling me in the comments what you like to see, and I love to be able to help you out. So most of all, everybody, remember, pay all of that good stuff forward, and until next video together, it's Uru from me.